I'm a huge advocate for networking. Like, if you can do anything, network. Act confident, but act confident. Be respectful, dress well, present well. Just those little simple things are good. People forget that everyone's all hunched over, and I have to remind myself, stand up straight. But just those little things, once you combine them, will give you that confidence.
Kind of like first do the actions, and then those actions will help you start being portrayed like that.
So I've always been financially independent. I bought my first house by myself. My now husband and I were dating at the time, but I had no expectations of him. I have all of my investments and savings leave before they ever reach my account.
Welcome, Megan.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited to talk with you today. So, Megan, I want to have you here because I think you're a perfect role model for when it comes to professional growth. You are the VP of merchandising for a furniture company, and I think it's something very admirable. And I want to learn from you how to grow on my professional career. I am a young professional, and today my goal with this episode is to help other young professionals to growing on their career, also in their personal life, and to think a little bit of things that will make a difference in their life, a positive difference in their life. So can you please tell me, what do you do as a VP of merchandising?
So it's a very broad term that can mean a lot of different things in different industries. The company that I'm at today, the VP of merchandising role has morphed since I acquired this position. So what I do today is I'm not only over product design, sourcing and engineering and purchasing in some capacity. I'm also over fabric. So there's a fabric merchandising component where we select a certain number of fabrics for each market, which is every April and October in High Point. And then I'm also over our showroom. We have a 22,000 square foot showroom. So I'm over the design of it down to not only the fabric to frame of the product and the finish on the case goods, but paint, wallpaper, rugs, lighting, accessories, so on and so forth. There's a budget element to that. You have to maintain a budget. There's a personnel element to that. And then there's a lot of not fun things such as price lists, dealing with tariffs, surcharges, website. I work hand in hand with all of the executives, the VP of sales, the VP of marketing, the VP of manufacturing, the president. So I have my hand in a lot of things and I am responsible for a lot of things. And it differs from company to company. So some merchandisers at other companies only work on product. Like they exclusively only focus on designing and sourcing product, and then someone else does the showroom. Some companies, you have a VP of merchandising which solely does fabric. That's all they do. So it's a mixed bag depending on what furniture company you're looking at. And then there's also merchandising in the fashion industry. So you have to think about, there's a merchandising element of window, like store displays. So it varies by industry. But what I do is kind of what I described. It's a little bit of everything. But that's kind of how my career has evolved. I have done a little bit of everything to get where I am today.
Can you tell me, what have you done? What has been your career to get to this position? Where did you start it and how did you evolve?
So I have a degree in industrial design from North Carolina State University here in North Carolina. And when I was at NC State, I was a Celia Moe Scholar, which has a direct tie to the High Point market. So when I was in college, I started coming to High Point Market and I was exposed to the furniture industry. I started doing freelance for an interior designer while I was in college. I was doing her CAD floor plans and things like that. And she actually helped network me with furniture companies. So while I was in college, I went and studied abroad. I was living in Italy and I had to come back and get a job. So I came back and I worked as a exhibit designer, which is someone who does museums, corporate interiors, collegiate interiors in the sense When you walk into colleges and they have display cases, that's kind of what this company did. And then they do visitor centers at state parks. Um, we did the Hunley Museum in South Carolina. So that's kind of what I was doing. And I did like it. It was very slow because a lot of it is grant based. Those projects can take 6 to 12 months because of all the approvals, and you're working within an architecture space. Um, but I got a call out of the blue one day from a creative director at a furniture company, and he said, "Hey, do you want to come design furniture?" I said, "Sure." So I moved to Hickory, North Carolina in 2014, and that was a big cultural adjustment because Hickory was very different in 2014 than it is today. But I became the in-house designer. So I was physically drawing, I was physically CADing the product for Hickory Chair, Pearson, and Maitland Smith at the time. Those companies have since evolved into something different. And then I actually got poached. So I was recruited by another furniture company, Cheryl Furniture, to become their director of design. So that helped me get to the next tier in my career. And I simply did that by networking. I was actually out in Hickory at a social event, and I met the wife of the president at the time and kind of was telling her what I do. And the next thing I know, I'm getting a call from their VP of merchandising saying, "Hey, we need a director of design to come in and manage design and sourcing and engineering." So that was a nice career bump, and that was purely networking. So I'm a huge advocate for networking. Like, if you can do anything, network.
So explain to me, I know when we are in college, they will say that you have to go and network, and then sometimes they will have events where you go through different vendors to talk. But what does it look like to network in real life? Like, how can I know they told me about it, but how do I go and implement it successfully after I get out of college in my early years in my career?
So moving to Hickory made me a little desperate for a social life because I knew no one. So I went to every social event that I could find. Like, if it existed, I went. Whether it was a social networking event or a professional networking event, I just went.
Okay.
And that's how I met a lot of my friends and my now husband. That's how we met, like at networking events. So they had Hickory professionals. There was a few others at the time that I think have since kind of dissipated, but it depends. Like, if you're someone in Hickory in this area, like, I would almost recommend going to Charlotte for networking events. I would do as many as you can here, but the industry is still a bit limited in Hickory unless you're kind of doing remote work or want to bring furniture or trucking, or textiles. So a lot of people, I'm like, just go to Charlotte, just sign up for random networking events and just go. Because you never know what's going to happen. It could be a bust. You could meet someone who knows someone that knows someone. But you can network anywhere you go. You network when you go out to eat dinner. You network when you go downtown in Hickory on the square. It's just a matter of like being seen and connecting with people. So every social opportunity is a networking opportunity, but you don't necessarily have to have an end goal. It's just meeting people and leveraging that connection at a later date if possible.
So do you think it matters more, for example, your technical skills, your talent, or spend more time networking?
I think it's a balance. So I've actually been interviewing a lot of people lately, and I'm personally looking for skills. I need the hard skills. I can give that person the experience, but I need to know that they have the hard skills, like certain programs such as AutoCAD. I need to know they can run a budget, so they know how to use Excel, things like that, and they've run a budget in the past. I need to know that they've managed people before in the past. So when I'm looking for things at this point, like, I want the hard skills, and then the rest, the experience, like I can train on that all day. But the networking, I may not find the best candidate unless they're networking or I'm networking. So it's a good balance. I would say you have to do both. But I'm a huge advocate for you get your experience by getting the best networking connection, like getting the best opportunity. And then your experience will kind of take off from that, as long as you have those hard skills to be appealing to someone who's hiring for a very specific position.
That's great to hear. And I probably should implement it more, start going to networking events and social gatherings to interact with people. Let's go back to the furniture. um, industry and things that you do. So first time when I went to the showroom, the furniture showroom in High Point that happened twice a year, I don't think mind blowing it's enough to describe how I felt in that moment. It was insane how much furniture, the beauty of it, the design, how elegant everything was set up. I think if you have not been to a furniture show, like just go just for the experience.
Yeah.
How do you design those spaces? How all the work that goes into it? I cannot imagine.
It's a lot. So early in the career, I was just doing furniture. So I designed case goods, upholstery, lighting, and accessories, and have since evolved. I still design product, but now I'm more uh, designing the product and the spaces, which is actually a really nice combination. So you not only get to design the product, but you get to decide how it's going to be debuted. Um, it's been, I would say in the career, it's been really nice because where I work now, Hickory Chair, we are not a trendy company. We do not follow trends. I'm actually reviving two designs that were launched in the 1940s because that classic timeless design is what people want. Like people who value quality don't want trendy things. So that is really fun because our furniture is so custom. Like you can customize almost anything about it that it can appease to someone who may want something a bit trendier or who wants something more classic. So when we're designing our showroom space, it's like I said, it's 22,000 square feet. It's roughly broken up into 20 rooms. So our first room we like to call the jewel box. It's kind of the gloves are off. Money is no object, like just we want to wow people. And it's the shiny, the beautiful, just we're actually doing a maximalist element this market. And then the other rooms are a balance of let's make sure we're speaking to our Florida customer. Let's make sure we're speaking to our California customer. Let's make sure we're speaking to our New England customer, our Midwest customer. So it's a balance of we want to show the product to inspire. We want to make sure the product speaks to our entire customer base. So not just this narrow view. And then we want to show the capability of Hickory Chair, which is so custom. And so we have a title called Made to Measure. So basically you could take this chair and you could make it a sofa by the inch. So a customer can order this and make it a bench or a banquette or whatever. They could change the depth, they can change leather, the fabric, the nail head, the finish on the legs. And so just showing our customers the piece of our furniture. And that's really where we start. And then I can talk about it. This market, we're actually partnering with Liberty, which is a London-based fashion house. And our president has a relationship with that company. And we did an exclusive line of fabrics with them that you can only get a Hickory Chair. They're very expensive and they're very beautiful. And so that's been really fun to leverage something that's so unique. We've not seen this kind of partnership at any of our competitors at our level, at our price point. So it's been really nice to be able to bring something unique to the market with our furniture. And we'll probably gain a new audience because of that relationship. So it's each market we're trying to figure out how we can inspire and basically show our customers what we can do. So this market, we're doing the partnership with Liberty. And it's a very iconic brand. So when you walk into the showroom, you know that's Liberty fabric on our Hickory Chair furniture. So
actually, one thing about furniture, I also work in furniture. One thing I didn't imagine at all was how complex furniture is. I'll say it's one of the products that it looks very normal, very average. But then when you start digging into it, I was amazed by the complexity and the different variations and combinations that you can have. So if you ever work in furniture or if you are about to work in furniture, do not think it's easy because it will surprise you. Can you talk to me a little bit about you design products, you think how you're going to touch your target audience For example, I'm trying to create a product, or an entrepreneur might be trying to design a product to attract customers, transmit a message. What is your thinking process when you are doing that? How do you appeal to a customer? How do you, the things that you told me about designing the showroom, designing the piece, the elegant, like walk me through that thinking process of, if I don't know anything about a product and I'm attempting to do my own business product to sell something, what should I be thinking about?
Are you talking about like a physical piece of furniture or just design in general?
Both. Like, just give me some words of wisdom in that.
So you have to know who your audience is. So one thing I have found is our audience is getting a little bit younger. And so I personally think the higher end industry in the furniture world is playing catch up a bit, where the lower end price point is really good on the UX side. And that's where we lack. When I say we, I mean that higher threshold, higher price point. There's an element of that, but going back to like the actual technical designing. So I study our entire SKU portfolio. Let's just say we have 10,000 SKUs, and I know there's gaps. Like I know we have gaps with round end tables that are 25-inch diameter. Like that is a gap, and that is something that a designer uses. And so knowing that, I've kind of created a box that I can then design into. So I may design 10 different end tables. Some are wood, some are metal, some are wood and metal, some are stone and wood. It's a combination. And then I kind of see, I study our rate of sale a lot. Like I see what sells well, what doesn't, the longevity of a design, if something has a long lifespan, what's made that successful? Is it price point? Is it dimension? Is it materials? So when I'm designing now, which I think is different than when I first started designing, I'm designing with data behind it, which I think is a more efficient way to design. Some would argue that it's too limiting. But when you have a company such as Hickory Chair, we're 114 years old, like there are some SKUs that work. And if it works, like just use that formula and try to repeat it. If you just want something to sell, that's the ultimate goal, is you want it to sell. And then we showcase the market. So say we design something. I just did a scallop table this market. It's got it's kind of like a pie crust edge, 25-inch diameter, 25 inches high. It has a single drawer and it has metal accents, and I put a bead on it because we want an opportunity for us to be able to stripe, which is where you can hand paint a metallic stripe. You did a starburst on top and the legs. And I did all of those things because I wanted to be able to take stains, but I also wanted to be able to be painted. And when you're picking certain wood species, you can't have dimensional wood species. So oak and ash are dimensional wood species in the sense that they're open grain. And if you paint them, the paint shows open grain, versus a maple and sycamore, which is a tight grain wood species. So when you stain them, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to showcase the wood, but when you paint them, it's going to kind of smooth the substrate. So there's all these technical things that go in to a piece of furniture and thought. So that's just one example. Like I had a very specific box that I was trying to fill, and I knew I wanted this to accept all of our custom paints and stains. So that influenced wood selection. And then brass is having a comeback, not the shiny 90s brass, but this, it's kind of a warmer brass, warm brass, metal accents and hardware. And then a little bit of people like tables with storage. So it's kind of like building into those things, making sure you check the boxes. There's some things where I just think it's beautiful and I want to be inspired by it. I'll rip off of it. Skirts on upholstery really big right now. Box pleat, shared ruffles, pleated. It's called like grandma maximalist type. And so we don't have a big seat back sofa in our line right now. And I actually had a customer request one. And so I often will get direct requests from customers, which will then result in a design. And that's been really successful because obviously we are lacking something. And so that's an immediate shoe-in if I can check that box for them. They wanted a formal, made-to-measure sofa, shelter height, tight seat, tight back, that you can do a white skirt customization on. And I was like, all right, done. I can do that. So I like to get direct feedback and have the data now versus when I first started, I was just designing things because I thought. So I think that's another part of the evolution in my career is that it's purposeful design. Um, so I don't know if that answers.
It does. Well, but at least it give me the idea that you're collecting data or like clients are requesting it. And then from that, you're taking your design ideas and putting them into a product that you sell. Which if you don't know anything about designing a product, kind of like me, my thinking was like, okay, I create these, then I attempt to sell it. What you're telling me is a little bit the opposite. I have data or someone requests me first, and then from that, I make a variation of a product, which is, once again, it helps me improve my thinking of how product design should be at a basic level, but sometimes that's what I need. Let me ask you a question. What was one of the greatest like challenges that you have experienced being a VP of merchandising?
In my current role or in my career?
Feel free to pick whatever you want.
I will say one of the most humbling and important parts in my career is that I was actually let go from a furniture company. And it was a very humbling experience. And it really helped me with the next step in my career. So I was let go from a furniture company. It was a clashing of personalities, basically. And I was young and I had just bought a house. I was let go 2 weeks after I'd closed on a house. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? It was a very tough time. And the result of that experience, I had to cold call people to get a job, and I networked. I cold called literally every furniture connection in my phone, and that was hard. Like it kind of like hurts a little bit to put yourself in a vulnerable position and say like, this is what happened. Do you know anyone that's hiring, or are you hiring? I did interviews after interviews, and it was networking that got me the next job. But I'm so glad I had that experience young because it taught me from a financial perspective how to be very conservative. I was glad it happened before I was married and had kids because it's gut wrenching. Um, but it also, if it hadn't happened, I wouldn't have had that experience to know what it felt like. And so, like, if I ever have to let someone go, or if I ever have to restructure, like, I know what that feels like to a person. And I think that really helped me not only grow professionally, but grow financially, personally. Like, it was just a very good experience to know when you don't have a job, you have to go out and find the next opportunity. It's not just going to fall in your lap. So it definitely made me a bit hungry and a bit more, it made me hungry, made me more proactive and just thought things, not just being okay with the status quo. Like you always have to have a little bit of competition with yourself to keep growing and don't ever. So that was a really pivotal. It was really hard at the time. Looking back, I'm really glad it happened. I genuinely am. So it was a good experience.
That's very interesting. And I know you're doing a lot of focusing on networking. We have another friend that the way he got his job was actually by going and knocking on physical door of companies. And that's how he got his job. So what are your thoughts on when I'm applying online or trying to just seek physical interactions with people?
So there's the grassroots effort, which is that boots on the ground, door to door. One thing that I have found as I've been interviewing people is, again, it goes back to your hard skills. Like put those at the top of your resume. I do not care to take through your resume to know if you can do AutoCAD or not. Just make it easy for me, but know what you're applying to. I customized every single resume that I sent out for the company. I didn't have a one resume fits all. If I was looking at a design position or if I was looking at a QC quality control position, I made sure everything was customized to that. If I had to put a portfolio together, I was making sure it was customized to what that company focused on, like lighting or common spaces, architectural versus technical furniture. So put the effort in to get them. Don't just like hit apply to make it easy. Like, actually, if you want the job, make sure you're doing everything you can. And then literally stalk people on LinkedIn. I mean, reach out to people that work at the company. See if you have common connections. See if you can find a common connection. Call that person you know to see if you can get a connect with that other person they know that works at that company you work at. I mean, you got to do the work, put the work in, and it's disheartening at times. And I know it's a tough time to apply to jobs right now. When you're looking for jobs, it's been tough for them because it's a lot of competition. A lot of people out of the college era that are having hard time getting placements. Everything was remote, and now things are moving back to in person. And I think that's cut down job opportunities as well because people are not hiring just remote, they want in person. Um, and then there's the whole reload. Like, are they going to pay you to relocate? Are you going to have to relocate? There's so much that goes into it. But I would say both, like grassroots networking, try to find common connections, cold call people you've got contacts for, they know someone, and then make sure your resume applies to that company specifically. Like, make sure it's a good reference to what that company is hiring. I know AI can do a lot with that. I do use AI. I'm not anti-AI. It is a help, but just make sure it's sincere. Originate a tool, sincere application, and not just letting the tool make it. So I would say you need to do both.
So correct me just to be sure I'm understanding this correctly. I should probably use AI to get me to a basic level of my resume, and then I need to go and touch it to make sure it really targets the job role that I'm applying for in that specific company.
Research the company.
Okay.
I've probably 20 people in the last 3 months, and only one of them I felt did research on the company.
Really?
Research the company that you're applying to. It seems so basic to me, but do the work. Like, know everything there is to know about them. Have questions ready to ask someone if you get that in-person interview. Show the person that you're passionate about it. And that's where I'm really surprised is people not just doing the basic research.
So give me an example. For example, when you say research the company, it's I go to their websites, I read the content they have in there, I look for them in LinkedIn, in social media, like what I'm looking for when you say research a company.
Yeah. So say someone's researching Hickory Chair. Obviously, go to our website, go to our LinkedIn, go to our parent company's website, research all of our sister companies, go to our Instagram, research our Instagram, find out who our licensees are, go look at their Instagrams, go look at their websites. Who's our competition? Like, if you're seeing what Hickory Chair does, who's competing with Hickory Chair in the marketplace? Maybe I can go get a job at one of those. Maybe they're hiring. Like, just kind of know the landscape before you apply so that you come in a little bit educated, but also with some good questions.
What would be like a good question, for example?
Well, I've been interviewing for a visual merchandiser to help with the showroom, and only one applicant took the time. We have a 3D walkthrough of our showroom space, and it's, like I said, it's 22,000 square feet. Like, if you have access to see what our showroom looks like, and we're hiring for someone to take over that position, like, you should go do the work to research how it's been displayed in the past. And come, like, looking at the aesthetics, maybe say, hey, like, what's your budget? How did you accomplish this with your budget? Or what are some roadblocks you have to market that you think I can help with? Like, kind of engage the person that's doing the interview and just, how can I help you? Like, I see that you accomplished this and it's beautiful, but where were the sticking points? How can I help alleviate? And that's a very specific process. It shows that that person did the work, that they know what the job role is, they've seen the scope by doing their own research, and now they're asking for very specific ways that they can help the company. And it shows the desire. It shows an application to succeed. So something like that, where it's like a very specific, how can I help you in this position make the company better?
Mm-hmm.
Something along those.
So it doesn't really matter the technical aspect or specifically what I'm asking for, but you just want to see that I care, that I have the motivation to do my research, to come and feel that I'm trying to contribute, that I will be a good hire after you actually hire me.
Yes.
What are the things you have been doing a lot of interviews? What are the things that you are seeing that young professionals are lacking today?
It's not their fault, but COVID has been really detrimental on the experience. Um, that when I was in school, I was working in a wood shop. I had a lot of hands-on experience. I had access to professors. There was a ton of network happening. I think COVID really put a damper on that. It really hurt people from gaining that experience. And so what I've been seeing with young um, applicants is everything's very tech based. Like everything's on the computer, all their projects. They haven't done any hands. See, it's all these hypotheticals. And like when I was in school, if we designed something, we had to build it. We had to figure out how to go to the wood shop and build it, which directly tied back to manufacturing. How do you mass produce something? So I find that hands-on element is really lacking, and the young, uh, like most recent professionals coming out of school. And then I think that hunger, I don't know how to describe it, that they're just hungry to succeed. I'm not getting that sense anymore. I feel like someone in like my generation and your generation a little bit more like angst about them and trying to find a little bit more grit. And I find that the younger generations don't seem as motivated to succeed, excel. They want to work remote. They want to work hybrid, which I do not believe in those things. But that's the industry. Furniture is very hands-on. I would never hire a remote worker or a hybrid. It's just even it. I tried it once and I stopped working remote. I was like, you need to be able to touch the furniture. You have to be able to touch the fabric. It can't be done digitally. Um, I find that is really in the age bracket. There's just a break where people work from home, and then there's the other ones who love the office. That's you spend time with people in the office, your family. They become best friends, and I love that aspect. That's really interesting.
That is interesting. I want to go back to the resume situation. So, how do I need to prepare my resume, to write my resume? I know I need to, first of all, tailor it for the specific application that I'm applying for. But then what else do I need to keep in mind? How do I need to like write things, for example? Because I know that does matter.
This is so basic. I received 2 resumes where someone had a beautiful logo of their initials but didn't put their name. So number
just
one,
initials.
remember to put your name, people. Like, I love that you're a graphic design person. You have a beautiful logo. I could care less if I don't know what your name is. I had another one that she just straight up had to put her contact information. Like she had her name, her skills, and everything. And I was like, how do I contact you? Like basic stuff. And I think people just forget some of the basics. So start with your name, start your contact information. Do not put your address.
Okay.
Do not put your address. You can put the city and state or just the state. Never put your address. That's a safety thing. No one needs to know where you live. Like if someone wanted to be vague, you have to be careful because if you're applying for an out of state and there's a reload element, like, you should tell the person like, hey, I'm in North Carolina, but I'm applying for a job in Utah. You just put North Carolina or something. Never put your address. I don't like objectives. We all know you want the job. Don't tell me, like, don't waste space on a page. Personally, this is my opinion. Like, I don't care what the objective is. It's to get the job. I would rather just have your hard skills. I do not care that you're good at negotiating or you're good at project management. Like, all that comes out in experience. I want to know what software programs you can use, what machines you can run. If you've like, I don't know, it just put skills. Don't put fluff. It's annoying fluff. I find it irritating. Plus all of that will come out in your experience. Never put the word I ever. Like, we all know it's about you. I use active words.
What is an active word?
So coordinated, designed, curated, leveraged. You can go on the internet and just say 500 active word sentences on your resume and don't like use a custom one for each line. I personally, I'm not great at this, but if I am doing a resume, I like single bullet points, like single lines, but it is um always put metrics. So if you've grown business 20%, but like grew business 20% by, and what did you do? Or leveraged some tool increasing sales by X amount. So always try to put numbers, dollar amounts, percents. Sometimes you have to be careful, like proprietary things you can't say. But if you can, put it on the resume. You can put some kind of metric, measurement of success. Put it in the resume. I'm not a huge, I don't really care about volunteer role unless it's applicable to the job. Um, I do, I like to put graduation years to judge your age. And then people can, well, legally you're not supposed to judge people on their age. It's like an immediate act. So I just tell people just pop your graduate. And no one really cares about they just don't. I know we did in college, but no one cares. Like, skills or not. Like, how are you? I think when you're right out of school, you should really put your GPA, like your first job out of school. But once you get that first job,
After that is gone. So I just list whatever I attended college or my master's, and that's about it.
that's all you need. If you have the letters, just put behind your name, put them up. So like your CFA, CPA, if you have your master's in something, like go ahead and just put it at the top next to your name. I'm not looking for it. I do think if you're a college athlete, it's important to put it like if you are a captain, so you could say like college athlete captain or something like that. I do think that's important.
Why does that matter?
I think it shows that you can balance schoolwork and athletics. Like I think it's a opportunity to show that you were successful with your degree and also successful leading a team.
Okay.
I played sports, so I not some people may not agree with that, but I see something in that. Especially if you're a captain or a leader or something like that, or you were there on scholarship, like college athlete, scholar. I mean, you can kind of phrase it different ways. And like if you have scholarships, I would list them. Okay. You just put scholarship, you have awards, but they don't need to take up a lot of room. Just like comma, list them. And it just shows that did more than just show up every day, go to class. So that's all that shows. But yes, name, contact information, hard skills, experience. I've seen a lot of different resumes lately, and one I didn't care for it. They had their experience, but they didn't put the date, and they just kind of grouped it by what the experience was, even though it was at different companies. So it was like this experience at various companies, and then it was this experience at various companies, and it felt strange to me. So I wasn't able to see the evolution of that person's career. So I do like seeing how people evolve in their careers.
Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, those are fantastic tips, which I'm like, okay, I need to take note. I'm going to rewatch the episode and now go and retouch my resumes. But my resume calls your attention. It gets you a good image of myself. And then you call me for an interview.
Yes.
What can I do better at an interview? How can I become a good interviewer?
So I've been starting with phone interviews instead of in-person interviews. And I find that is more conversational. So I like the individual to tell me about their experience, their job, and I want to know why they went the job.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I have a good reaction with them on the phone, then I bring them in for an in-person interview. If I can't have a good dialogue with a person on the phone, then it's not going to work in real life. So that's been interesting. That's kind of different than what I've done in the past. In the past, I've just immediately brought them in to in-person. But it's kind of like dating. I mean, you call someone or you I don't text people, but you call them, you have a dialogue. if it's a good conversation or it's comfortable and you feel like, hey, I could probably work with this person and they have 75% of what I'm looking for, um, then I bring them in. One of the weird things is I'll have a conversation with someone. I'm like, oh, they have all these other skills, but they're not on the resume. I'm like, why didn't you put them on a resume? It would have been a lot more efficient if you had just put them on. So have your question ready. Know, why do you want the job? It's such a basic question, but why do you want the job? Tell me why. And if that's a good answer, it's like then we start having a dialogue much like this. Um, Learning about the person, learning about the background, learning about the aspirations. Those are all things I look for in an initial interview. And then kind of getting into the technical. Do I think they can do the job or not? Are they equipped to excel and in the position that I'm hiring for? But I think having a good conversation with the person. Um, One thing that candidates should ask is, who will they be interviewing with? It could be a panel interview. You could be interviewing with HR. You could be interviewing with an executive. Like you should ask, you come in, so you're prepared, because it would be a different interaction that is. Um, if you have like for our what I'm looking for, like show those are work. I want to see how you design showrooms. If you don't have that, then how can I change your skills? So if there's something that you've done that can support you for this role, have it with you, have it digitally, never print out. I'm still a believer in print with you. I've made that mistake before where I did it, and then the person interviewing me didn't have my resume. Um, so just have a hard copy just in case, and then have a digital copy of your iPad or something. And if you have images that they can look on your iPad portfolio, be prepared for there not having Wi-Fi. Like if there's no Wi-Fi, that whatever you have is downloaded when you don't need Wi-Fi. So just kind of being prepared for different environments is really important. Just kind of thinking of what could happen. And that just shows that you're prepared and you may be a good kid.
Absolutely. Once again, those are fantastic tips. The other thing that I want to touch on is how you hold yourself, your representation, how you speak, like that confident aspect. You are a very confident speaker. Just in general, when I interact with you, I can sense like the confidence. Like you are a person that knows what you want, and you transmit that to the other person. If I'm a young professional, I'm kind of like still building and figure out like a little bit who you are, how to act professionally, how to talk in interviews. How do I improve that aspect?
I think it helps if you're passionate about what you're speaking about. So I love furniture. I could talk about furniture all day, and it helps because I love it, and so I can speak to it. Mm-hmm. So I think if you're interviewing for something and you don't love it, you're probably not going to sound very confident. So, I mean, I know it's hard. Some people are just trying to get a job and they just need to get a foot in the door, and it may not be exactly what they want. But think of the end goal. Like, hey, this is a stepping stone. And so I'm going to love this stepping stone and speak very positively about it, and that I'm going to fight for it to help me get to the next stepping stone that I'm even more passionate about. Being confident goes a long way, and just how you carry yourself. And it helps you stand out from others. So confidence is, I don't know, it's learned, you have it, it's inherent. I think it depends on the person, but fake it till you make it. Even if you're like trembling and sweating, don't let anyone see it. Just act confident, don't act cocky. Be respectful, dress well, present well. Just those little simple things are good. I think when people dress well, it also makes them feel confident. They carry themselves a little bit better when they dress well. So even just the act of dressing can help you feel more confident. So just little things that can be conscious to help you. And then, being passionate about what you're interviewing for can help. And I think observing others. So if you interact with someone, ooh, I didn't like how they looked. I didn't like how they stood. I didn't like how their hands were held. I didn't like what they wore. They didn't look put together or polished. Like, kind of observe others and like, oh, I don't want to do that. Or on the other hand, And I really like what the individual wore. They looked very polished. I know there's a lot of things about how people hold their hands, like if you hold them high or low and they make them open or close. So just watching those things and being reminded of how to stand up straight. Standing up straight is a big deal. People forget that everyone's all hunched over, and I have to remind myself, stand up straight. But just those little things, once you combine them, will give you that confidence, or at least it will portray you're confident, whether you are or not. Smiling, it's a good one. Not looking dour. So I think all those little things. But for me, I am passionate about furniture, so it's really easy for me to be excited, confident about it. So for others, I think it's just it'll evolve.
So I read this great book at the beginning of the year. It's called Coach Yourself to Success. And it has 101 kind of tips. And it breaks it down into different sections. One section was a little bit about that, how you dress yourself, how you treat yourself. Kind of if you want to boost your confidence, dress so at least when you look in the mirror, you see the image of someone that is confident. And that will help you kind of start gaining that confidence. Speak like you want to, like a person with confidence will speak, even if you don't are an expert, you're not an expert, or even if you're not fully confident of what you're saying, kind of first do the actions, and then those actions will help you start being portrayed like that. So I think that was a great resource. So if you're looking into how to improve yourself kind of as a person, that is a good starting point. Coach yourself to success. So Megan, next I want to talk about, I'm a young professional. Now it almost seems that you are, I don't want to say supposed to switch jobs every so often, but to progress in your career. What are your thoughts about that?
When I was younger, I was very ambitious and I wanted to climb the ladder. And I think it's good to do it when you're young. Because you're not married, you don't have a family, you don't have dependents, you can take those risks, those financial risks, you can move wherever you want. And this is just my opinion. I know others may not agree with that, but it is easier to be more ambitious when you're young. And if you look at our parents' generation, they were very much loyalists. They got into a company and they stayed there for 30 to 50 years. I mean, they just did. That was what they did. And you got small raises over time, but nothing significant. And I think in our generation, we're a little bit hungrier. We want to make more money. And I do believe to do that, you have to jump jobs every so often. But it's interesting now that I am where I am. I did jump, I don't want to say quite a bit, but every 2 to 5 years, I was transitioning to a new company. And with that, I got a pay bump, except when I lost my job. And I got a title, I got an improved title. And now that I'm kind of where I'm married, I have one kid, I have another one on the way, that ambition has tapered a little. But I think it's because of where I am in life. I have a family, my priorities have shifted a little bit. I love my career. I love what I do. I love going to work every day. But that ambition to climb the ladder has definitely slowed. That's not to say it won't come back. It's just my priorities have shifted a little bit. But even when I was married, no kid, I was still very ambitious. And I was looking for jobs everywhere. And I took a risk and did a remote startup furniture company, and I hated it. It was the worst. It was the worst fit for me. It was not what I needed. But I learned something, and I got to take that risk. And because I now know that, I wouldn't take that risk later on in life. So I would say for a young person, now's the time to take the risks. If you've never lived outside of the state you were born in, go find a job somewhere and see if you like a small city or a big city. If you have a degree in tech that's applicable to the furniture industry and you can bring a better UX experience to these tenured furniture companies, you go try it out, like go make a pitch. Um, and then some companies don't know that they need to hire someone. So I was fortunate enough, I think twice, positions were created for me because they liked me. And I think that goes back to networking. And if you impress someone and present in a way that person's like, ooh, we need that skill in our on our team. That's another way to get a job. But that's very grassroots. Like you have to present a certain way and make a company want you. So it's for everyone. But I would say personally, while you're young, take the it's okay to jump a bit. I think it's important because that's how you're going to get more and more experience and become more and more valuable to the company down the road. So because it's funny, I actually moved to Hickory for a job at Hickory Chair, which is interesting where I work now. And I left and went and worked at a lot of other companies. And then I came back and I brought all this knowledge with me that I was able to leverage to help this company. And I mean, our sales are up 20%, our SKU portfolio has evolved, we've done so many positive things. And I have to give credit, I got a lot of experience at competitors. And then I came back. It can help a company in one way to let a candidate go or let a team member go, and then maybe you hire them back in 10 years and they bring all that back. So it's a evolution. I think that's a element of me being in Hickory that's happened. I don't know how common that is, but I would just say be as ambitious and try as many things as you can before you have dependence and the risk is higher.
That makes a lot of sense. And I do find it very interesting that when you say the position was created for you. So if I understand that correctly, you didn't necessarily apply for the job, but you networking and then they say, I want you on my team. I'm going to create this position. But it all started from going and networking. I really need to start networking.
Yes, I'm a huge advocate because that's how you meet people. And that's how the world used to work pre-COVID. Like COVID definitely shifted things. And so it's like we got to get back to that interpersonal element. Yeah.
And then my next question is, I might not necessarily be able to switch jobs right now, or I recently started and you told me you kind of switch jobs like 2 to 5 years, or at least after you work a little bit, get some experience, learn what you do. But in the meantime, how can if I want to improve my salary, if I want to get paid better, how can I do that?
So know what your skill sets are and know where the company's lacking. I was actually talking to our VP of sales recently about how we are just weak in that UX experience. Like our website, our back of house website is just, it could be so much better and more appealing to the younger customer who deals with these amazing websites. Like you have the Wayfarers and the Paragolds, and you have these lower end product websites, but their search engine and how people interact with the websites are superior to ours, even though our product's better. So it's like, how do you marry that perception? So I think if you're in a company and you want to grow within that company, it's like find some opportunities that are not being addressed or that you think could generate more revenue. So a lot of time, if you can generate money, save money, things like that, improve a process, implement a new process, just some element to benefit the company and kind of pitch that to the right person. That's the thing. You have to know who's pulling the strings on a team and who has sway. And be careful. Like you don't want to be disrespectful. You don't want to undermine anyone. There's always going to be office politics you have to be careful of. But do your research. Do a little bit of in-house networking. And just see if there's an opportunity to present some ideas to improve things that you've seen, like based on your skill and your knowledge, like, hey, could this search function or this to minimize clicks, like how many clicks we have to use on your website and how much scrolling, like it just drives me batty. And the search, I can't just type in a word and have everything that pertains to that word pop up. And it's I don't know coding and pretend to know coding. I just know it drives daddy. And so it's like, if there's something that can make our company better and more competitive and better than our competitors, what would that look like? Kind of present that to the right person. And then maybe I get to own that project. And then on your resume, it's like, I implemented the first blah, blah, blah search engine, or that resulted in this much increase in online sales. Like it could be a big thing. And then maybe you get paid after the success, like you get a raise after the success of that project. You get a bump. You can show progression within the company. That's one way to go about it if you want to stay where you're at. Um, it's funny. You have to be careful. So we actually had a friend recently who was offered a job with a competitor, and it was a lot more money. And she had asked her a raise previously and was denied. And it wasn't until she was about to leave that she got that raise. And I struggle with that. You should value the people before they're leaving. But it's hard because the company has hundreds and hundreds of people, and you have to balance that expectation. So I can't speak to run a company by myself or been responsible for thousands of people, so I can't necessarily relate to the other side, but I know that I feel responsible for the people I hire, and I feel responsible for the people that work for the company, that what I produce secures their job. So the furniture that we bring to market ensures that these people work 40 hours a week. So I do take responsibility in that. But I also want people that want to grow. Like I want to be aware of that desire. I've worked with people who love their job. They don't want to deal with office politics, and they are so happy where they're at. And they're fine with that inflation adjustment increase every year. So you get a little bump based on inflation, and they're so happy. Like, I come to work, I love my work, I love what I do, and I go home and it's good. And you need those people too, and that's okay. Like, you need to have a balance of people that are okay with the status quo and just work and love what they do. And then you need people who want to drive and improve and make the company better. So if you want to be that person driving, find the opportunity to present them in a way that's not like it's a very technical approach. And I can improve this by doing this. Will you give me the opportunity? If so, could we revisit my compensation?
So basically, I would try to find something that the company is lacking or something I can do better or how to cut costs, revenue, and then I'll speak or try to identify who is the person that pull the strings or has more weight on those decisions. Present the idea of me trying to take responsibility on that. And then from there, I will say, will this work? Can I have a higher compensation for doing that?
Maybe you do the work first and then you're like, hey, how great this was. Not quite like that, but essentially being like, I have more ideas. Like, would you allow me to do more, but would you reconsider my compensation? And that's hard because if someone's doing that work and they do something successful, but you don't have the means to pay them more, like it's not in the budget, it's also a little disheartening. So I think it's on whoever is managing the individual to like make sure they set a realistic expectation. Like, hey, I'd love for you to try this project. Maybe we can't compensate you more, but we could give you a title change. Like, depend what's more important to you. Some people want the title jump on their resume. They want a higher title. So just have to see what works for you.
Fantastic. Megan, next I want to start talking about personal finance. So we talk about career growth, and that is a big aspect on someone's personal finances life because that's how you make your income. That's how you make money. So you should take care of those things. They do matter in life. They deserve your attention. But now I want to bring that to the individual level and also to your relationship level. So if you're a young professional like me, you're still young, but this is also the time when you start seeking a partner. First, you start dating, then eventually you might get married, and then life will go on. What are your thoughts when it comes to handling money and couples?
Great question. So I've always been financially independent. I bought my first house by myself. My now husband and I were dating at the time, but I had no expectations of him partaking in that purchase because we were not married, we were not engaged, and that's a huge risk because you never know what's going to happen. If a female can always be financially independent of another person, always.
Can you repeat that for me, please?
Always be financially independent of another person. I feel very strongly about that. I was raised by a mom who was very successful in her career. She was a high-level executive at a pharmaceutical company, and she was very, very savvy with investing in money. And then I've been fortunate to marry someone who's even more in tune with finances. And between my mother and my husband, I feel like my finances have been very sound and secure because of the choices I made very young. So I would say save young, invest young, even if you can only invest $10 a week or skip Starbucks for a few mornings and take that money and just invest it. Just put it in the S&P 500, just something basic, just something like invest because it will compound. Like you will get compound growth, and that could be your down payment on your house. That could be put towards future child's 529. That could be an emergency fund. Like you never know what you need. And going back to when I was like, oh, I just put X amount down on a down. I don't have a job, but I had enough saved and invested that I could still afford to keep the house till I found another job. I just stopped going out to eat and didn't do anything rash for a few months until I found a job. But in terms of a couple, so my husband and I, even after we got married, we had separate accounts, and we have a prenup because we both want to protect what was ours prior to. And we both respected each other's efforts to building what each other had built prior to marriage, and did not want to just assume that it was the others. And some people may not agree with that, but as an independent female, I worked so hard for that money, and my husband works so hard for his money, and it's like it's ours. Like, we work for it; it's individual. We did not create a joint account until after we had our first child because it was getting too complex. It was getting too hard. Oh, you owe me this. I bought diapers this week. Oh, you owe me this. I bought formula. It just got to be too nitty gritty. So we did create a joint account. We did it enough to cover joint expenses. So my husband will analyze your monthly expenses and tell me this is what for diapers, this is what mortgage, so on and so forth. So it is very much bare minimum. It's prorated, or we put in a percent based on our incomes. So it's balanced in the sense that he now makes more than I do. At one time we made this mate, but one time I used to make more than him. But definitely it's balanced so that I'm putting in the same percent of my income that he is. It was only just enough to cover joint expenses. So anything that is not joint expense is still out of our own accounts. And they will always be our own accounts because that's what we set it up in the prenup. I should back up. So I bought a house when I was single and I paid for it. And I eventually invited him to move in with me. He paid me rent because he was a tenant. And so I was able to offset that like investment essentially with the rent payment. And when we got engaged, he then bought half the house from me at market value. So then that way he owned the equal amount of the house. So when we sold it, the profit came to both of us and it was balanced. That's just how we did it because I could treat the house I owned as an investment property also. So that's one way you can take it. If someone owns something, you could charge the other person rent, you can depreciate things and all that. But I do believe in keeping things separate.
So what happens when you don't do that? What happens when you don't keep separate? It's when you don't have a financial independence in two individuals that are in a relationship. Why should I do that? Why should I make sure I have financial independence? And what will happen if I don't follow that rule?
Some people are not as fortunate to have that opportunity to be financially independent, and they may go into a partnership needing to rely on another person. And as long as both parties understand that and have talked about it, that's one avenue. But I don't know. It's a touchy subject. Like if you, so the reason I'm so pro prenup and so independent financials, it was my parents divorced. My parents did not have a prenup, and I saw how catastrophic that was for my mother. So she was the breadwinner. She was an executive. She made lots of money, had her invested in her 401k, and it's different in each state. But in the state of North Carolina, her ex-husband got half of everything. He just got it. No amount of fighting, no amount of anything, just got it. Because he was the lesser of the two in terms of income. And it really set my mom back. So she had worked so hard for all of this and had done so much to secure her future, my future, my sister's future. And it was really hard to watch. And so I kind of knew I never wanted that to happen. And you hate to say, you don't know what's going to happen. Like, you're married to the love of your life, your best friend, they get in a car accident, they get addicted to payments, drown your account, and you can't do anything about it. I know that's extreme. It's not a what if scenario. And I guess you could say realism to practical, but unfortunately, my husband feels similarly. Like, we're both very pragmatic when it comes to finances. He's probably a little more than I am. But it also, finding a person that agrees with you. Like, some people are anti-prenups. They were like, nope, we're combining everything. We love each other. Love perfect. And I was like, I respect that. I 100% do. It's just not how I want. So you could have no issues. You could have a beautiful marriage with a joint family and have no financial issues. It can get a little touchy. Like, say you have debt going into a marriage. When you marry that person, that other person is then responsible for debt. So it can hurt your credit score, drain your the money that you've saved and worked hard for to pay off. But again, it's by state. So you have to know which state is. But in the state of North Carolina, when you marry someone, unless you specifically have prenup lining that that's two separate, it's the joint. Everything becomes joint. So it's just something to be mindful of. Whether you do a prenup or not, I think it allows you to talk about things before marriage that are hard to talk about, that you should talk about before marriage. Like, we have a kid, who's the beneficiary on all the accounts? Is it your spouse or is it your parents? Is there a financial advantage of having it go to your parents who are retired and get taxed versus having to go to a spouse who has an income and get taxed? Like, there's so much to that. I'm best at it, but it's no. So just knowing what you happen. Same thing with car payments or loans. When you get married, you don't have a prenup. It's the responsibility of the person who's coming into that marriage to take on that as well. So I think prenups, just whether, again, you do them or not, it allows for tough conversations to be had before marriage, which I think will result in better marriage.
Just in general, kind of like, what is a prenup? Because you don't hear this word a lot in just general conversations, but what is the purpose of a prenup?
The legally binding document that you outline what is yours and what is the other person's going into marriage.
Okay.
So for example, my husband and I both had vehicles prior to marriage, and we outlined in our prenup what was mine, his was neither of us were responsible for, could own it. But since we've gotten married, we brought vehicles, and now we're both on the title. So it just is a way to divide assets and keep them divided. And then say that marriage ended, that person is no right to those assets that were already divided, already kept separate. So it's just a way to say protect what's yours. You're not really protecting it. It's an awareness that if something were to happen in this marriage, that these accounts, these assets are not affected and cannot be or used for any kind of financial repercussions.
So it helps you have a clear understanding of what is yours, what is the other person, and if things were not to work out, at least you're somewhat protected, or this will not impact my living situation. I, I read a book that is called Your Erroneous Zones, and in a few pages of the book, basically it says that um, two like half oranges, they don't make one. And I really like that concept applied to personal finance, because when it comes to money, you're still both individuals that are still independent. And when you're in a relationship, it doesn't take away the fact that you are an individual. And if you love the other person, you should want the best for them when the relationship is going well and when it's not going so well. So from my point of view, a prenup or having this conversation early on allows you, in the worst case scenario, for the other person to be fully productive. So even if you're not a big fan of prenup because you might think they're not super romantic, it ensures the other person that they will be safe, that they will still be able to carry on with their life if the relationship doesn't go very well.
Yes. So 2 points I want to make. So a prenup is not just about finances. It's also about objects. So say you were given something that's a family heirloom and you want that to go back to a quote unquote blood member. Like you want that to go back to your parents, a brother, a sister, not go to your spouse and then maybe carried on somewhere else. That is another way prenup can be used. It's like if there's something that's so important to the family, a ring, a piece of art, whatever, you can also outline that. So it's not just a financial thing. It's also an object thing. Now, what was the other point you were asking? What was the second point? The question you just asked. I got sidetracked.
I do not remember to be
So, I know what I was going to say. So for prenup, we had a clause. So there are times when mothers typically become stay-at-home moms. So after you have children, you decide to no longer go into the workforce and you stay home and take care of your kids. And you no longer have an income. You no longer have a 401k. You no longer have a monthly check coming in, and you are solely responsible on your spouse. And that like terrifies me more than anything in the world, but it happens all the time. And I think one part of the population that gets overlooked is stay-at-home moms. Whether they chose that or whether it evolved to be that way, they are now at a disadvantage because they are no longer able to generate invest the revenue from a 401k. And it's almost, in my mind, the husband could almost pay the wife or vice versa the comp for them staying at home. So or invest on their behalf. Like, yes, you have your own investments, but make sure you're investing on your wife's behalf or whomever is staying home with the kids so that they're not losing out on 10, 12 years of profit. And I think that is a touchy subject, and I don't know the best solution for it because it really puts individuals who are stay-at-home moms in a disadvantage. Like they are now no longer able to be independent and are reliant. And so, actually, I think like if that happened, then I would get where I would be. It's set up in such a way that essentially for amount of years. I wouldn't want that offset that in some capacity because then say worst in your state of mom and you only what's in your account and be able to invest in 2 years. Your husband or your spouse is way more of an advantage than you are. So you have to be mindful of what is in all capacities. Like don't make it so stringent that it's like going to screw someone over if something happens. Be mindful of what ifs and your kids. If you don't have kids, ours was things were kept separate until we had a child and we had everything go to the child. So we put contingencies in there. So if we had kids, then nothing changed. If we did, then certain things changed. But again, the prenup is talk about those things. And whether you use it or not, these are great conversations to have with someone before you enter a marriage. Because marriage hard, it's a lot of and finance big tension marriage. So just kind of having this conversation.
So one of the things that I don't remember if I heard it in a podcast, if I read in a book, but basically it's the idea that most marriages, they might have relationship problems like any couples might have, but the actual thing that breaks the relationship has a high tendency to be the financial aspect. If financials are not taken care of, then it's very hard for the relationship, like the love aspect, to survive. And that's kind of in my thinking why it's important. You don't have to be a massive fan of personal finance or dedicate like hours and hours to it, but you should attend so it doesn't become a problem, because then it allows you to live life like it should be. But if you are having financial problems, then it's very hard for that couple to be able to survive in time. I also think if you, as an individual, if you have your own bank accounts, if you have your own savings, then you can take decisions that are not pressure on someone else. For example, if you were to be a stay-at-home mom or dad and the other person is working, the problem is one person, it's the one that controls the income, so it's in your bank account, and then it creates the possibility for one person to become the oppressor and the other one, the person being oppressed. Mm-hmm. Not because they actively want to come and damage you, but kind of like in an unconscious level, you have the argument, well, I'm making the money, and then the other person has to surrender to everything they say. But when both are equal, you also have a saying. You have, I'm a separate person. If I, for whatever reason, I decide to go on this trip, it's with my money. You don't have a saying. At least we have a clear distinction of me having the freedom to take my own choices. And I think that does matter. Because if not, you're not trapped into, for example, a relationship and you're just kind of like the victim. I'm not saying all those things have to happen, but it helps when you have those principles in place for you to be able to proliferate in the rest of your life.
So I don't know that it's the finance is the issue. You have to step back. It's the communication. So if one person doesn't know there are financial issues, it is a lack of communication. Mm-hmm. So I think it all starts with communicating. So if you have two people in a relationship and there becomes a financial strain, if you talk about it and you as a couple or as a team decide on how to fix it, resolve it, then it's less of an issue. It's when there's a lack of communication and finance as the issue, it can become a catalyst and, snowball. So having those open dialogues about finances and saying like, man, I'm miserable in my job. I really want to find a new job. Are we financially secure enough for me to quit because I'm so miserable and my quality of life is diminishing and rely on one income while I go find another job? Or do I need to suffer through the job I'm in, just have an income while I go find something else and be miserable for 6 more months? Like those are conversations you need to have with your partner. Because it impacts everything. That's the communication element. So yes, finances can be a stressor, but they're a stressor if they're not discussed. So I would start with discussion first. And if you have a good partner, then you can come up with good solutions. Yes, finances always a subject with everyone.
Absolutely. And my intention is at least to bring awareness that these are things that should be talked about, and it's perfectly fine to talk about them with your couple. You don't have to be the person like doing all the work, but at least you need to be aware of what's going on. And that happens when you communicate. Great. So I know how you split costs with your partner. So can you talk about how you do that and how do you split the cost with your husband?
So we only split things that are actually joints that are pertain to our house that we buy together, or pertain to our son or our soon to be second child. So those are the only things that we split. Like if I'm going on a trip or I'm shopping, it's my money and vice versa. We do split groceries because, we eat them and we have a child that eats them. Um, and we've moved certain things to our joint account, such as like our Netflix account. Like before, one person would pay for it, but now we both use it. So, but we have a spreadsheet of everything that we spend money on, and whether it needs to be in a joint account or not, and how much it costs. And I used to manage it. My husband manages it now, which is fine. And he kind of analyzes what the total spend is, and then how much of our total income each month needs to be sent to that. But I also have a percent of income that goes to obviously my 401k, Roth, and all that. But I also tend to invest just for fun, and it's money that I don't need. It's like it's there for when I'm retired and one of first class or something. It's just like it's money that you can grow on the side. And then we have our five. So, but we talk about money probably. I don't know if we talk about money as couples, but we're very open. And like I'm very transparent. He has access to all my bank accounts and everything like that, so he can see what I spend money on. It's fun to me sometimes. Just Starbucks, but and I can spend it on Starbucks. So, but we very cognizant of how much we save. So first and foremost, we save. And then whatever's left, put that into the joint account or spend or just save more. So, but yeah, we
Love it.
and yeah, it's good. I mean, it's good. It's good to see where all your money goes. It's a good thing to see. So I think it's smart for people to literally write down a monthly expense sheet and how much money you actually spend in a month and where it goes. It'd be eye-opening.
100%. And my point of view is that not everyone has to have like independent accounts. If you want, you can have like joint accounts or handle money kind of like whatever fits your personality. It really depends on who are the two individuals, your personality, how you feel more comfortable doing it. But I think it's worth at least sharing it so you're aware that there's different ways to doing things and how to handle this when you're in a relationship, and that it's okay to discuss them early on. It's okay before you're married to have individual accounts, after you're married to have individual accounts, and that having a joint account does have a purpose, but it doesn't need to be like just all joint accounts. You can still plan your financials with how you want them to be for what accommodates best to your life. So hopefully that makes you more aware that there's different choices that you can look into. You mentioned a 529. What is a 529?
So a 529 account has actually evolved since when it was applied to me, but it's basically an investment fund that's used for education. Mm-hmm. So my parents set up a 529 for me and my sister. And so we graduated university with no debt. And at the time, it could only be used for education. And you would, it's an account that you would put into post-tax, I believe, and then you wouldn't get taxed when you used it. You might want to check me on that. And Trump actually just came out with a new platform for the 529 that supports homeschoolers, which I thought was really interesting. And there's a few other elements to it where it can roll into a IRA if it's not used, which is better than what it used to be. Because if it wasn't used for education, you couldn't use it. So if you had put too much into a 529 and it didn't get used, it was just kind of stuck there. But it's a fund that you can invest in that is for education, and it grows. So one for our son, and when our daughter is born, literally the week she's born, we'll probably start one for her. And we put anywhere from $300 to $600 total, and then including what the grandparents contribute and things like that. So it's a nice way, instead of getting things for birthdays and Christmas, we can say, hey, why don't you contribute to the 529? And it's just a way to ensure that our children graduate with little to no debt, depending on what school they go to. And it can allow for more possibilities. I'm a huge proponent of scholarships. It was like one of my sole goals to get a full ride when I was an undergrad and did my senior year. And so I actually had leftover money that then went to my sister. And when she went to school, she was 5 years behind me, costs had increased to that. She actually needed that extra money and to help offset um, the rise of certain things that related to university or the cost of certain things. So I think it's a huge asset for your kids. And it doesn't have to be like if you have a child tomorrow, just start putting $20 a month. That's like 2 Starbucks trips, or that's a Chick-fil-A trip. Like however you want to think about it. It's like, I'm not going to eat out this week so that I can invest in my child's college fund. The one thing that my husband and I have been talking about is, what if our child doesn't want to go to a traditional university? What if they go to a trade school or things like that? And so we want to be able to invest enough to support their decision, whether they want to go to a traditional university or not. But with some of the new laws around they're a lot more flexible than they used to be. But it's a great way to ensure your child does not have debt. And that's our ultimate goal.
Absolutely. And obviously, these 529 accounts, same with the prenups, the point of mentioning it's for you to like be aware of them and understand a high level like what they are. Do your own research, talk with the lawyer. They will be able to explain like the actual details, because like law will change with the years with whoever is leading those vehicles. But you mentioned that you opened the account as soon as they were born. So you were planning many, many years in advance for their education, which I think it's a fantastic thing. If I have a kid, or for the couples out there that do have a kid, is it too late if they didn't start it whenever they...
Mm-hmm. It's never too late to invest in general. And if you have a child, like barring they're already in college, like just start. Like it doesn't even have to be a lot of money because it will grow. It's an investment. So you're going to get compound growth. But just start. Like start anywhere. And I think some people get so caught up, like, I don't have $10,000 to invest. Invest $20. Like just make it a practice. I have all of my investments and savings leave before they ever reach my personal account. Like I have it all distributed. So whatever comes to me is over. So I make sure the savings, 529, investment, like all that's already out monthly before it comes to me. And that way I know that what account is just there. Like it's just the money I need. It's left over. I've ensured that I've maxed out everything else. So it's never too late to do that. And especially if you're able to live below your means, which we again are huge advocates of, like take that excess, invest it for your own personal retirement. They keep changing the age of retirement and we don't know what that's going to look like. So make sure you have something that you could fall back on. And you want to ensure your children don't have debt, so they have a great opportunity for success. Debt's crippling. It's very prohibitive. You can't buy a house. Sometimes you can't buy cars. You can't do the things you want to do with debt. And so not having it's a huge, huge benefit in the long run.
And anyone can contribute to this account, correct?
Yeah, I mean, my in-laws contribute to the 529s. They have their own. They've set their own for him. So our son, I think, has 2 or 3 529s right now, and that's okay. It's just it's for him and his education, and then when we have our daughter, it'll be for her and her education.
Love it. So basically, I can assume that, let's say for birthdays or things like that, instead of gifting the kid toys, or maybe you do that, but also you give them a contribution that they can use in their future.
Yes, any cash we get, we put into the 529. So even if it's $50, that's $50 more than they had before, which will,
it will compound for many years, and then it will become something more meaningful after 18 years, 19 years, whatever is the age, or later, because I think you can it doesn't restrict when you go to college or anything. So you can use for master's degree later.
Yeah. My mom actually went and got a certification at Duke many, many years after my younger sister had graduated. And there was some money left in the 529 and she used it for that. So as long as it's used for education, doesn't matter who or when.
Correct. I was Googling them, and really anything that it's uh, certifications, trade school, regular universities, any sort of education, you can use this account for them. I do think they have a limit of how much you can use them. But again, like look into the rules. I just want to mention like super briefly that.
Yeah, and certain states have better 529s. Like I think the one that my in-laws have for our son is actually based in Utah because they get some kind of tax break. I don't know. I'm not that, and I don't know the granular side of that, but it's actually a Utah-based 529, which I think is funny. I think ours is just a regular one, but they're different based on states too. So something to look into.
Perfect. So basically, if you have a kid, or if you have a grandson and they are so young, maybe you look into 529s because it's something that can help them in the future. And then you mentioned that you have your paycheck comes into you, and then before you even touch it, it goes into your investments, savings, and other things. And I wanted to articulate that super quick because I think that's very important. And after reading like many personal finance books, I arrived to the conclusion that that's one of like the easiest thing and most helpful thing that you can ever do. So basically what Megan does is she creates an automated transaction. So whenever she receives a paycheck, let me say she receives it on a Friday every 2 weeks or whenever that is for you, you will create an automatic transaction that will take that money and put it in your savings. You will create a different automatic transaction that will transfer that money and put it in your Roth IRA. For example, the 401k might be automatically. But if you have, if you're investing into, let's say, stocks, like index funds in your own kind of like a Robinhood account or whatever platform you use, you will create another automatic transfer account that you will sync them to be also on Friday, the same days that you get paid, and then it will take the money basically before you can even use them. So that is super simple. Once you set them up, you really forget about them, and then it kind of you are going in automatic, and then like life just happened, but your financials are taken care of. So for me, that was like fantastic because you don't have to then spend a lot of time budgeting or doing things. It's like whatever I have left on my bank account, I can use it pretty much however you want, and then you are like really, really safe.
Yeah, I automate everything because I don't have the bandwidth to think about it. So I automate what goes into our joint account. So we have a set percent that goes in every month. So I don't even see that. It just goes. And like all the other things you mentioned, they just go. And then like we have rental properties and things like that. And sometimes you have to budget for anything that's not a constant. But for the most part, it's yes, what's left is yours because you know you've maxed out everything else. And another, we haven't really talked about 401ks, but if your employer matches, max it out. If you can, like max it out, max it out. That's money you're leaving on the table. That's free money. Like max out a 401k. Just why not? You don't have to do anything. It's just money you're getting. So, yeah, it definitely makes life easier to automate everything. So you don't have to think about it.
Absolutely. But it changed the order of things. Is instead of life happening and then you're reacting to it, what it does is it flips the order. So you are planning first, you're taking your decision, and then the rest of life happens. So that order matters. And I will say, I have almost everything automated. The only thing that I'm not a big fan of automation, and this is like my personal opinion, you can do whatever you want, but it's with credit cards. I love paying credit cards, like let's say once a week, like the current amount. And then in that way, I have 100% certainty by when the statement balance comes, there's no chance that will carry any interest. You can automate that, but I don't know. If for whatever reason it doesn't work out, the automation, you're fully safe. But that's just to mention, that's the only thing.
Always pay your credit card in full. That's like my number one rule. Don't pay a portion of it. Just if you can't afford it, I don't like debit cards. I don't like debit cards at all. People can easily access the money directly from your account with a debit card. You're much more protected with a credit card. You also get points on credit cards. You can pay for trips, you can pay for meals, you can pay for other things with those points. So I'm a huge believer in a credit card as long as you can pay 100% of it off every month, which I do. Like it is paid in full. I don't mess with it. But yes, to your point, whether you pay every week or every month, you need to pay it in full. Just get in the practice. Don't spend more than you have ever, because it's a slippery slope, and yeah, that can catch up with you fast.
Perfect. Fantastic. So I think now people, they should have good resources to go and improve their personal finance, or at least assure that they are well equipped for succeeding on that aspect of their life. As we start to like wrapping up, Megan, what books can you recommend? How can I keep growing professionally? How can I keep growing personally?
So it's funny you asked me that. I saw just one of your questions. So while I do read a lot, all the things you have mentioned learning from a book, I have learned from others. And it goes back to I value networking and learning how other people tackle things and approach life in real time, through conversations. Like books are great. I love books. You can learn a lot, but I find more value in learning from other people's successes or failures or stumbles, and kind of tweaking things that work for me. So I would say, please keep reading, but also go network. Like for every book you read, try to go to a networking event and just see what happens. And I think you're going to learn a lot from that. There's so many books out there and they're all great, but to me, it's that like real world experience. It's just experiencing it yourself, and seeing how others succeed or where they might have had more opportunity to succeed. So I would say network. Read, but network.
I love it. Which also like, I am a book person, so that's how I intake my information. You do whatever you need to do to consume content that applies to your personality. But for example, you don't have a TV. So it's very valid to highlight that you're not spending time on like watching TV, watching a lot of Netflix. You might not read a lot of books, or you might read, but they might not be like kind of like me. I'm like very personal finance, personal growth type of books. You do a lot of networking, but you still consume content that helps you grow. And that's kind of like what matters. I think right now we are used to, because of social media and all the very low level content, we consume a lot of that, but we don't consume a lot of like positive content. So just make sure you are consuming content that adds value to your life.
I do. There's a lot of good financial information on Instagram, but you have to have a good algorithm. So my Instagram is more professional based. When I'm searching, it's either furniture or I'll go down a finance rabbit hole. And I'm fortunate to have a husband who's very savvy with finance. So I'll send him things and he's like, yeah, I already know about that. We don't qualify, or like he already knows if we can or cannot do something. But there are some really good things out there on social. I'm more of an Instagram person. My husband prefers X. I think is what it's called now. You can tell I don't use it, for finance and stuff like that. So there are tips and tricks out there. If you don't want to be so formal and read books, just, double check the source, like make sure it's legitimate and not some robot or something. But yeah, I don't know. It's as long as you're learning or trying to learn or trying to absorb, that's the main goal. It's like, you got to start somewhere. It is overwhelming. That's the other thing. It's like, if the 529 and the prenup and the 401k, like just start somewhere. If your company has a 401k, just start with the 401k. And then once you get comfortable with that, like do your Roth IRA. And once you get comfortable with that, go invest, like go do your own investments or pay someone to invest for you. Just got to start somewhere. So don't get overwhelmed, baby steps. But yes, if I could say anything, just start somewhere.
Fantastic. And then what would be your last advice, that one thing that people that listen to this podcast should take with them?
Two things. I would say live below your means for as long as you can. I mean, you should always live below your means to ensure that you are never in a position where you are at risk for not having a roof over your head or not being able to put gas in your car. So always live below your means. And that will create financial freedom in the end if you just stay below your means. And then for those who are interviewing and wanting to have growth in their career, I had an executive one time tell me I had left a company to go work at another job. And he's like, one thing I admire about you is you have grit. Like you have this determination about you. And so just have a little bit of grit and don't give up. Don't just keep pursuing and pushing for what you want. And if you don't know what you want, just start networking and something will evolve. Um, so those are kind of my two things. Live below your means and have a little bit of grit, and you should be good.
That's fantastic. Megan, thank you very much for this great conversation. And I hope if you listen to this conversation, you enjoy it. And this help you be a better young professional and help you think about things that will improve your life. So thank you.
Thanks.